Hi, everyone. Welcome to another amazing topic of conversations. Thank you to our sponsors, the Health Channel. So please sign up for their newsletter for anything related to health, wellness, fitness, and much more. Thank you to Alexa's Workspaces. If you need anything, whether it's a boardroom, whether it's a virtual office, or anything related to an office space, Alexa's Workspace. And we welcome Aventura Moms, the best resource page in Facebook going beyond Aventura. So, Patricia, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation and I'm glad to be here.
It is really a pleasure having you here. I know that you expand in a lot of generations, helping people by building bridges.
Yes.
And you were telling me that you have a background on mental health and also on schools. And you were telling me something that really touched me. And I'm going to quote you. We take those broken pieces to use them to build the bridges.
Yes.
So what is the meaning of that?
Well, my company is called Breaking Down Barriers, ASAP, and it stands for academic, social, and professional settings. And so many times we have barriers to keep us from moving forward. And this is for children as well as adults. And so when we work together, and when I work with you or your organization, we break through those barriers and break them down, and they have pieces. And so then we try to move you from where you are to where you want to be. So we use those pieces to put them together to move to where you want to go.
And you were telling me that children move more difficult because they cannot express themselves and their feelings.
Right. Children need to be taught to regulate their emotions.
What do you mean by regulate their emotions?
Well, they're little people, little bodies that have these big, big emotions, and they aren't always sure what to do with them. And again, most of them don't have enough vocabulary. So when you don't have vocabulary, you're going to use your body. You're going to throw yourself down. You're going to scream. You're going to do those things. And as adults, we sometimes forget. So then the child ends up punished.
So the tantrum is literally, hi, Mom, I need help, as opposed to, hi, Mom, I just want to be a pain in the neck.
Yes, yes. And so the more, I work with clients and help them learn what that emotion is called, or what they can do with that emotion, or how they can tell somebody that this is happening to me and can you help me, then it helps them to learn to regulate and regulate. And then eventually they seem calmer because they can express it in a different way and know that you're going to help them.
So it's by literally learning how to describe what they feel.
How to describe. And most of the time, when you think about it, the more language that children learn, or anyone that has had difficulty, even adults who've had strokes, a lot of their frustration when people work with them is because of the inability to express what's in their head or in their heart. And the more you do that, they seem to calm down, they can regulate, they can, move about this world to where they want to go, which is what we focus on, where you want to be.
So I know that also part of what you're doing is life skills.
Yes, definitely life skills. And I like that you use that term because many times we judge people and we judge a behavior. That's just so disgusting. But what if it's they just don't know the skill? And so if it's a life skill, that's different than if we said, oh, they just don't know what to do right now, instead of, oh, they're just being a pain. That's a different concept. There's more compassion with that.
But give me some examples of life skills.
Life skills. The self-awareness is a life skill. Do you know how you come off to other people? And a basic example can be a physical example. You're in the grocery store and someone lines up too close to you. And if they don't have self-awareness, they don't realize they're too close to you. So when you look at them in an uncomfortable manner, saying to them, you need to move back, they may get offended, thinking, I don't know why I need to move back. But if they had that life skill of, sometimes people look at you like that because they need that space. And it's not they don't like you, they just need you to step back. That's a different response.
It's all about communication.
Yes.
I remember that.
Physically and verbally.
I remember that my dad used to say, and he literally gave us a very graphic example. He said, for example, if you walk into someone and you step on the toe of someone, and that is the toe that has been hurting that person, he's gonna get really mad. And if you keep on going, his anger is going to be even more. But if you turn around and say, I am so sorry, I didn't mean to, I didn't see you, it will totally de-escalate the whole thing. And even though it is still hurting. So it's a way of communicating.
Yes, those skills. So that's, like an example of that. But many people don't have those skills. And, I worked in the school system 40 years and then I retired. But one of the things I used to teach music, which is one of the creative, expressions. And I noticed a lot of times students didn't know certain things about how to communicate certain things, spacing with people, things like that. And as I integrated that, students became happier. They had better relationships with the teachers, with their families, and with their friends. And they seemed just happier overall. It can be lonely being in school all day and feel like you don't have any friends. And it's like us adults at work. It can be the same thing.
Oh, 100%. So you incorporated the skills through the music?
Yes, through music. As a teacher, I tell myself I was called to teach and I chose to teach music. But I still have, it's a lot of other things to teach. Whatever you teach, those things come with that. When you're teaching reading, those things come with that. There's always a behavior of doing something. There's a behavior of learning. So if I'm talking over someone while they're trying to listen, instead of me saying, oh, that person's just being rude, I'll say, do you know there are other places when people are learning that some people need the person next to them to be quiet because they can't learn like that? And some kids really don't know that. So that's a skill you start learning. You just embed it in everything you do, and it just changes the world for people.
So you worked in the school system for 40 years.
For 40 years.
Retired,
Yes.
but now you're up and running again with your own company.
Yes.
You're an entrepreneur. And you talk about how you help people that are stuck. What do you mean being stuck?
Well, life is filled with transitions, some expected and some unexpected. And we can't always control that. But sometimes, again, we don't have the emotional skills to know how to move through those, how to navigate that. And so sometimes we get stuck. And it's not to the point that it's a mental health diagnosis. I'm not saying to that point. I'm just saying something in life happens. Sometimes it's grief, and grief is imposed change. It's not only death, but it can be losing your house, leaving your country, um, losing your job. Uh, those things are grievable. And so sometimes you get stuck and you keep just replaying and replaying because you aren't sure how to take that next step forward. So you need some type of support to say, let me have my safe space to tell you this. Can you hear me? And then we work together, make a plan of how you can take baby steps so you can move forward on that bridge, how we could break that barrier and build that bridge that we were talking about.
Um, when you say that now you're an entrepreneur, you move forward, you started another new life by helping people. There are women now that are, for example, above 50, and they
Mhm.
want to reinvent themselves or change careers or move forward, but the workforce is saying, no, your experience doesn't matter. You are like, after 55, you're like disposable.
Yes,
How do you
yes.
help those women?
Well, first, I asked them to revisit something that maybe they wanted to do that they didn't do because of practical reasons. Many people choose careers because of practical reasons. We needed to bring money into the house. I could have done this, but this is what I really wanted to do. So I asked them to explore that. And most of the time, that's been sitting kind of dormant. And so I asked them to try to like activate that and awaken that. And many times, when I ask that, so much comes out that people have just stuffed and
Got
stuffed
it.
and stuffed. So, that's the thing. And I also try to help them to remember that they are who they say they are, not who other people say you are. Because many times in the workforce, we begin to define ourselves by the job we do or what other people say we can do. And we can do so, so much more.
What about the younger girls that go into, especially, I've met many women that go to college and they want to be lawyers, especially with the law field. And then when they
Mhm.
finish law school, they go, I don't want to do this.
Yes. And that's a lot of times I often look at one of the things I look at with my company too is about mindset. How do you learn to fail forward? And so a lot of
Wait,
people
fail forward?
fail forward. And even when I was working with elementary school students, especially that third grade group, I told them FAIL was an acronym for first attempt in learning. And a lot of times, people who have thrived academically, been in honors classes, AP, advanced, things like that. They go to college, go to law school, and do really well. And then they get in the field and they're like, I don't like this. But then they don't know what to do with that. And they claim that they have failed. And so we reframe that and say, what if that's just your first attempt at a career? And it's time to try something else. That's not a failure. You're moving forward. What did you learn from that? And so I introduced them to growth mindset, which focuses on the process. It doesn't focus on the product. It's what are you learning throughout the process of getting to there? So that often I see that. And sometimes in the relationships, in their personal relationships, some of them have realized they have issues with their moms. And so we talk about how some people, the person who is your mother and the person who mothered you aren't necessarily the same. And so we
What
take that
sense?
apart.
In what sense? It's not necessarily the same.
It's not necessarily the same. Sometimes the person who mothered you is the person who gave, the person who mothered, who is your mother, gave birth to you.
Okay.
But they didn't have certain skills. Remember, we talked about those life skills.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of skills to be a mother, you know, and sometimes they don't have the skills. So maybe you end up with grandma or auntie or someone else who mothers you because they have that nurturing, those nurturing skills, and they have enough overflow of love, of self-love to give to you so they can mother you. And sometimes people who give birth don't have that overflow of self-love, so they can't give it to you as you need it. And that can change relationships and strain relationships between mothers and daughters.
But that also means that you have been raised by someone else.
Many times, yes. Many times, yes. And it doesn't always mean necessarily rage. Sometimes it's different people in your life. I believe there are different people. I call it agape. You know, agape is unconditional love. And I think about little nuggets in your life. It might be a coworker that takes that extra time at that moment that you need it or that season in your life, and they nurture you in a way that you didn't even know you needed. It might be a neighbor who doesn't have any biological children, but still knows how to mother.
Wait,
So it can be anyone.
it can be anyone, but you're talking on a long-term basis or an impact that was an impact, a real big impact on that
Yes,
person's life.
yes. And that's why I said sometimes it's just a season. Some students have said it's a teacher. Some people have said it was, you know, my neighbor that lives next door. Someone said maybe it's, you know, someone they went to worship with. Maybe it was someone who was an auntie or a cousin, you know, someone else's mom who always said, "Oh, come on and go with me. One more won't make a difference." You know how some people's parents are like, they go, "Just let them come over here. One more won't make a difference." And they say it won't make a difference, but to that person, it made just a
All the
tremendous
difference in the
difference.
world.
Yes, all the difference in the world.
So you were in school for 40 years. What are the changes that you have seen now?
that, that I have seen. I've seen children, the academic standards raise, and children meet those academic standards, but the character standards, there seems to be this wide gap. The character standards and the emotional regulation seems to be dwindling rapidly. And so I see students, you know, I see people frustrated, everyone, not just the students, the teachers, the people in the office, the parents are frustrated. Education has become very pressure oriented for people who struggle. If you thrive, it's the best
Doesn't
thing
matter.
since sliced bread, you know.
If
But
you
if you
thrive
struggle,
wherever they put you, it's gonna be fine. But if you
yes,
struggle, so what would be your advice?
I would love for us to integrate that emotional regulation throughout every single class, every single grade. And it doesn't mean you do it as a separate lesson, but just integrate it throughout everything that you do seek those little opportunities, you know, that you do that. I mean, think if you did that, let's say like 12 times in an hour, just something like, oh, I see you helping him. Wow, how compassionate. If you did things like that, oh, okay, I see you were frustrated and you're trying to move forward. Look at you. If you did that just 12 times, 5 days a week, that's an hour of teaching emotional regulation every week. That's 4 hours a month. When you think in terms of that, imagine getting that like throughout school. That would change our communities, build resilience in our community. Notice many of when we watch the news and I look at things, or even driving, basic things like, can you wait your turn
Oh,
in
no.
line?
Yeah.
We say no. Okay. So, and what do we tell in kindergarten, you know, in pre-K? No, wait your turn, wait your turn. But, you know, when we look on the road and we're driving, those are skills. Those are those regulation skills. And when somebody tells us no, all it is no. It's not they don't like us, they hate us. It's not, you know, all of this. It's just no.
But
But we make it so much more.
isn't that not a skill, but a respect? Like, okay, it's not my turn. Or are you saying that respect for others is a skill?
I'm saying it is a skill. It's a skill.
Okay.
Because remember, when you take the word, you know, respect, and you break it, you know, you dissect it. Spec usually has to go with spectacles, looking at something, and re means looking again. So do you have the ability to look at something again from a different perspective? That's what respect is. Can you do that? That's why it's a skill.
With that, I love how you ended it. And you're always invited to the Power of the Heels too, because this is what we do with the Loving Me More program. We teach the girls the skills, life skills that they need, and that school doesn't have time to teach them.
Yes, yes.
So
And people go further with those skills than academic skills.
yes.
If you have to choose, do you want someone working for you who has people skills and some academic skills that you can, you know, nurture and grow, or someone who academically knows everything, but they have no people skills? Which one would you hire?
I think it's a combination of both.
Yes.
Because you cannot hire someone that has all the people skills, but actually don't know the basis.
Exactly.
So they also need like a foundation. And then teaching them, which I think it's much harder to teach them life skills than to actually teach them the academic skills.
Yes. Yes. If someone has humility and a willingness to learn and to hear you say, okay, that's not correct, but let me show you a different way without taking it personally, they're going to grow in different settings. But if someone says, you can't tell me, you know, I don't know why you told me this, and then they get all upset and whatever, it doesn't matter what kind of job they get, they're going to have those conflicts everywhere they go.
Correct. It's like empathy.
Yes.
They're lacking empathy on how, and I have the perfect example, and it's a very simple one. I had this conditioner tubes that were left over from something that I used. And my husband didn't ask me where they came from. He just one day said, you keep on buying this and you have all those and you haven't used them. And you're spending all this money because you haven't used them. So why don't you use them instead of getting more? If he had asked me, where do they come from? I would have told him. This is leftover from something that I use and I didn't want to throw it out.
Yes, yes. A lot of questioning and communicating. You know, there's a book by John Maxwell that says everyone communicates, but few connect. And if you communicate and you don't connect, that can create a whole bunch of things, negative things. But if you communicate and you do connect, wow, what a difference.
Yes.
What a difference.
And with that, because we're over time, I want to thank you.
Thank you again so much. And I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody. Until next week, and above all, stay safe. Have a wonderful day.